I love reading the comments that you leave on my videos. Quite often they're really helpful for other people who may be suffering with gambling addiction or may have had a question that I've not had the opportunity to answer. There is, however, one comment that's come up quite a few times now and popped up again recently on a video, and it's a question that I wanted to address in today's video. Firstly, just want to say hi, hope you're keeping safe, hope you're keeping sane. My name's Phil. If you're new around here, if you'd like to do any of that great YouTube stuff, liking, commenting, subscribing, then that would be wonderful, help support me. Yeah, and with that I'll crack on. So, most recently someone commented, if you had all the money in the world, unlimited money, would I gamble? I've seen different permutations of this question, sort of suggesting that, if you had bottomless funds, hypothetically, then, you could gamble without any real consequence. So let's address this, right? Firstly, let's look at the practical side of this, okay? There are probably a small handful of people in this world that could realistically gamble without consequence. There are a small number of people who would not be able to wager sufficiently high amounts purely because of betting limits and, certain casinos or whatever won't take bets above a certain amount. There are only a small number of people who would actually ever be in this situation where they were unable to gamble, as much as they want, as frequently as they want, without having any financial impact. So firstly, that makes it a bit of a hypothetical question, but let's roll with it and talk about this hypothetically. I've spoken many times about how gambling is fundamentally not a financial problem, although the financial impact of gambling is certainly the number one most recognisable symptom when it comes to an addiction. But I think this extends even further, and this is why I would say, should I suddenly find myself in the position of a Bezos or a Musk, and I've got all this money, and you know what, gambling is never going to cause me any financial issues at all, would I do it? And with everything I know now and life and bitter experience, I would have to say no. But I won't leave it there. Let me at least justify my response, because yes, you're absolutely right. If you are not able to gamble as quickly as you can actually make the money, then you're never going to be in any kind of detrimental, dangerous position when it comes to the financial side of gambling. I made a video quite a while ago now which talked about my biggest gambling loss. Now, aside from being a handy bit of clickbait, because people love to hear about other people's losses, as discussed in a more recent video, this actually, was a good way of explaining that, yes, we do suffer financially, yes, we do put ourselves in times of hardship, we do struggle, and that does cause an awful lot of stress. But the biggest loss I ever had from gambling was time. Time and, dare I say, relationships. And that was often really linked to the fact that I wasn't committing the time I should have done to the relationships I had. And that's not just romantic relationships, that's sort of friendships, relationships with family and all the rest of it. If you were to gamble, irregardless of the amount of money you have, okay, you could still fall into a form of gambling addiction. Now, it's less likely, of course, because there would be no financial motive to gamble in the first place. If you have all the money you're ever going to need, then why do you need any more? But just supposing you did this because you found it an enjoyable, exciting form of entertainment, I believe there would still be a certain release of dopamine when it came to the suspense element of gambling. That time between placing a bet and finding out the result, or placing a bet on roulette and watching the wheel spin. That is when the dopamine is released, and you may still experience that even if the financial outcome has no real impact one way or t'other on your financial standing or your living standards. So if you did become addicted to this form of dopamine, as we do with other forms of drinking, porn, a load of other things, right, that release dopamine. If you were to become hooked on this, then the same would occur. You would dedicate far more time to this habit, to this addiction, than would be beneficial to you, in your life as a whole. You could get hooked on gambling and you could still be a multi-billionaire. You could have all the money in the world, but it would still lead you to neglect friends, loved ones, relationships, other hobbies, other interests. And I guess in this situation, it could lead you to neglect businesses which are bringing in this unlimited source of income. I've seen this happen, not with gambling, but with other forms of addiction. I used to work with a guy who was a big avid gamer. He got addicted to a game called World of Warcraft. Now, a lot of you may be familiar with this game. It's not something that I know a lot about, but I know he put in hundreds and hundreds and possibly thousands of hours into this game because he became addicted to the progress. He became addicted to the dopamine, feedback from achievements within the game. And this ultimately cost him his marriage. I mean, I'm not sure there wasn't any underlying elements. I have no idea, But certainly this was the biggest contributing factor because he had an addiction which took away his attention from, maintaining his relationships, doing things with other people, doing things with your partner. And this ultimately caused the breakdown of his marriage. And this is perfectly feasible because with a computer game, there is no financial reward. The reward is purely sort of virtual, or there may be a certain level of acclaim or praise associated with this within certain communities. But there's no financial reward. There's no money at stake. There's nothing that's going to have an immediate, tangible impact on your lifestyle or your living standards. It's purely an addiction based on dopamine feedback, as gambling, as we know, is. So that was a slightly long-winded answer to a relatively short question. But like I say, I've seen this question in quite a lot of different forms and different ways of wording. And the implication is always the same. And that's, well, actually, if you could never run out of money, or you had such a lot of money that you're never going to, cause yourself any more financial harm than you can make back in the same time scale, would you gamble as a bit of fun? Would you do it? Firstly, it's pointless. If we take gambling in its purest form, the reason we gamble rather than do other forms of entertainment is because there is that opportunity to win. And that is effectively pointless if you have all the money in the world anyway. But no, I wouldn't, because the biggest losses I've ever experienced in my gambling life, yes, there were heavy financial ones, but the biggest losses have been, most importantly, the loss of time, but also losses of attention in other areas of my life, leading to a breakdown in friendships, relationships with family, romantic relationships, and all that sort of thing. So that's the answer to that rather long-winded question. But thank you very much to everyone who comments on the videos. Like I say, I do read as many as I can. I don't always have the opportunity to reply, but I do read them, and it's great to see everyone sort of commenting and answering each other's questions and helping each other out. It's really nice to see a good sort of community forming around these videos. And so even if you think I'm, dull and ramble on, because I know I do sometimes, then thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of it and for supporting each other. Stay safe, stay sane, have a great week, and I'll see you all soon. All the best.